This episode is brought to you by Pinpoint Predictive, revolutionizing the P&C insurance industry with advanced behavioral intelligence. Pinpoint goes beyond traditional risk metrics like zip code and credit score, offering carriers powerful loss predictions and scores that boost profitability and improve loss ratios. What sets Pinpoint apart is its use of trillions of behavioral predictors and advanced machine learning, which can be seamlessly integrated across your insurance value chain. Whether it's underwriting claims, marketing, or renewal, Pinpoint's intelligence elevates every aspect of your business. By leveraging the power of big tech data and focusing on the behavior of your policyholders, Pinpoint provides a more complete view of an individual's risk. Make smarter, faster risk decisions with Pinpoint Predictive. Start a conversation at pinpoint.ai. Now let's get to the episode. I just did a recording with Helen Burke, the founder and chief operating officer, COO of Teambase. Let's just say this. Helen loves insurance. She loves the impact that it has on people's lives. And you'll see the fact that she loves this entire business and she's doing the anything she possibly can to make the experience of buying, distributing, and loving insurance even better for as many people as she possibly can, particularly in the context of digital nomads and people that are living a liquid life. Listen, watch the whole episode. You'll see how much she cares about this. Helen, thank you so much for doing this. You look very purple today, which kind of matches the background here. How are you?
I'm great, and anyone that knows me knows I like to wear super bright colors. Life should be lived in color, not black and white. So that's
I love
my
it.
motto.
I love it. Life should be lived in color. Let's think about that the entire time we're having this conversation. And look at me, I'm wearing black. So like I lose already right from the start. And I am in black and white, like this, black and white. Before we jump into the main part of our conversation, let's give our audience a little bit of your background, just for some context.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the InsurTech industry for almost 13 years now, since 2011. So I've been around the block, been there, done that, done multiple implementations. Actually, strangely enough, I started off on the carrier side, actually on the carrier technology side. So I worked for an Irish insurtech in Qatar, and we worked on a project there with a local Qatari insurance company, and we built out their core system. And then I moved to Dubai, and then I started working with Teambase, and that's sort of where the whole employee benefits, distribution, technology side of things came to the fore. And I'm really passionate about insurance technology, life and health insurance in particular, and employee benefits, all of my favorite things that I like to talk about.
I love it. I noticed, and I think you may have mentioned this when we did our prep call, but I noticed you put out a video a couple of days ago. Was it a couple of days ago or was it today? I can't remember exactly
Yesterday.
when. It was good. It was super good. What prompted that?
So I say it very honestly, because again, I'm quite an honest straight shooter, I could say. I was really overthinking that and really nervous, and I had this fear of video content, of me recording myself and then hitting post. The me recording myself bit felt a little bit weird, but the hitting post, I actually had a lump in my throat and felt a bit sick. And that's so strange because I've done TV, I've done podcasts, I've done spoke on stage, I've done radio, both live and recorded. Not live TV though, that's a different beast. But yeah, I've done all those things. And then I've had this strange fear of video content. And what prompted me to do it was purely because I'm speaking at a conference soon in a couple of weeks. And the organizer, Lady Danny, had asked me to share a little promo clip, and I'm like, oh, here we go. This is the start of video content.
Now I have to do this thing.
Now I have to do this. And then I was like, I better just share it too when I'm at it, since I went to the effort of recording it. Just share it, don't overthink it, and just see how it goes.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've been at this now for 6 or 7 years, and I will share a little dark secret with you. When I first started doing podcasting and it was all audio, it wasn't even possible. I mean, maybe it was to do video, but it wasn't probable. It didn't make sense. I was always hoping the guests wouldn't show up.
That's terrible.
I don't think I have to explain why, because there was no way then that I could mess it up. It wasn't my fault, right? And I think I completely understand this feeling. Today, obviously, I'm way more comfortable with it, but I do remember that feeling of like, if I do the recording, then I have to publish it. And if I have to publish it, what if it doesn't live up to who knows what, some unknown standard that made no sense? Anyway, I was so happy to see that you published it. And you'll see over time as you keep doing this more and more, it's just like everything else. Once you do it once, it just gets easy.
That's so
I
true.
want to, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, the first time I did TV, I was so
Yeah,
nervous. First time I
for sure.
spoke on stage at a conference, so nervous. Drank two
Yeah, yeah,
espressos beforehand, so nervous.
yeah.
But then, yeah, like you've said, you get used to it, and you improve, and you get better.
I want to reference one of the other things that you put on LinkedIn. I think it was a couple of days ago as well. You said the liquid life is now here. So talk to me about what liquid life is, just so I can understand. And then I want to get into benefits and post-COVID and all this other stuff because I do think it's super relevant. Go ahead.
So that was a reference into the way people live and work,
Tell me.
and an article that I read recently. So people are no more in the habit of this sort of stable, fixed life, like the American dream. Like I must have a house and 50 yards of land out the back, and I must live in a fixed place and have all these fixed material possessions, like a car and a house and all of that. That's sort of changing a lot now, and um, it's very liquid in terms of people are no longer fixated about having that as much, and it's not even as much of a dream as it used to be, especially for I would say Gen Z and younger people now. They're pretty
Feels like it.
happy with, yeah, flexibility, liquidity, things being a little bit more fluid in life in general. And I think that ties into insurance because insurance ain't fluid.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to get to that too, but I do think this brings up a couple of other topics. Because one of the other things we talked about and you posted about was this idea of a digital nomad, but also in the context of COVID. And it's weird, right? Like I feel at some level, like 2020 didn't happen, even though it happened really aggressively at some level, right? Because we all remember it, but in a way it feels like, was it real? I don't know. It's hard to explain that feeling. But do we feel like we needed COVID to prove that this liquid life was actually possible, or was it just an inevitable progression, you think, or evolution from this fixed life of I need to have a car, I need to have a house, I need to have a dog, I need to have a spouse? Or do you think that COVID was just like a symptom of this and not the reason why the liquid life is now becoming like a real thing? And then I want to get into the benefits and where that fits into all this stuff, if that makes sense, right? But was it inevitable, or did COVID cause this?
I think it may have been coming, but COVID accelerated it.
Go ahead.
Meaning, the way I sort of see it is that yes, I think people were slowly moving towards that, but they didn't quite jump. They didn't jump in the deep end, right? There was
Yeah,
that
fair enough.
I'm dipping my toe in the water type feeling. You know, people were trying it out. They might go work from somewhere else for a month or so, but they didn't fully jump in and be like, I'm becoming a full on digital nomad. I'm packing up. I don't want to, you know, I just want to live all over the world, and you know, I'm not bothered about having a fixed abode or a house, owning a house. I'm happy enough to just rent and live all over the world.
Yeah.
I think COVID accelerated it, but I think slowly but surely the signs were there and people were moving towards it. But it definitely accelerated because of COVID.
Okay. Now talk to me about how all of these things that we just talked about are changing the way employee benefits get distributed, get built, get understood, get expected, right? So like when I was working at Goldman Sachs in a fixed place in a fixed city, there was no chance that I was going to be able to like just up and go to Bali for like 3 months. Like that was not a possibility. But I had an expectation about what my benefits were going to be. And actually that was one of the things you could negotiate at some of these big companies. How have this stuff changed in this kind of nomadic or liquid life era?
I bet you did want to go to Bali though. Sorry, I picked up on that.
Not really. I was in Bali this year. Like I love Bali, but they're way more. I'd rather be in the south of France personally than be
Oh,
in Bali.
nice.
But I will say this though. I've been living the liquid life actually for the past few years. So I know this feeling. My residence is in Bangkok, but I love like the hot weather. And during this season in Bangkok, it's raining. I'm actually in Fukuoka right now. And part of the reason why is because the weather's better here. I have a studio here so I can do my work. And all I need to do now is build a studio in the south of France so that I can be there just before high season. And then I go back to Bangkok. So I get it. But I want to know how, no Bali for me, although it's super nice and I love Indonesia. But I'm just saying, how has this stuff shifted?
So the way I see it, and it's like a spider web, or a jigsaw puzzle. These pieces are all connected, and I've been connecting the dots for quite a while now.
Okay.
So employee benefits is related to, again, the benefits that employers provide employees.
Yep.
And those benefits then are distributed either through insurance brokers, agencies, or MGAs, or sometimes direct from the carrier.
Okay.
Across the insurance ecosystem. So that's sort of the flow of benefits and where they come from and who decides what. The carriers design the products, and then they either go direct or they go through the typical distribution channel, which is, again, brokers, agencies, MGAs, tied agents, so on, and the intermediary piece. But the benefits people want are different, number one. The way benefits are designed, I believe, do not fit the upcoming modern workforce. Gen Z and millennials, according to some stats I've seen somewhere recently, apparently they're going to take up to 75% of the workforce in the next 2 to 3 years. That's a huge stat. If your benefits are still generations behind,
For me, yeah.
generations behind, then you're going to have to take a look at having a strategy for the different generations. So you're going to have to you're going to have sort of a different bucket of benefits for different generations, and you're going to have a communication channel that the different generations prefer, and that's not the same for everyone. Digital is preferable, definitely for Gen Z and millennial. Some baby boomers, etc., as well, that are quite tech savvy would prefer a digital channel as well. But there's still the pick up the phone is never going to go away. People still want to send emails as well. That's still going to be there, and there are certain use cases for the different communication channels. So there's a lot to absorb, but technology plays a role in that for sure.
So can we go through at least a couple of examples for me? Like I just had the most traditional benefits. And in that sense, I also considered vacation to be a benefit, right? But you're talking about dental, healthcare, wellness care, all this kind of stuff. How does it change just because I'm younger or just because I'm living this liquid life, right? Is it like I can't imagine what the differences would be. So just run me through if you can, like what those differences are. I know what it was when I was there, but I'm curious what it's like now or what it should be like.
Yeah, I'll give you a few examples. So travel insurance is definitely more important for somebody who's living the liquid life. Why? Because you travel more. If I'm somebody that just stays at home, I don't travel that much, then if you offer me that benefit, I don't care that much about it really, because I don't travel that much, right? So that's one. Second, I would say is okay, life insurance. Everybody values life insurance, regardless if you're nomad or liquid life or what your beliefs are. But the repatriation cover for a nomad needs to be a bit higher, because God forbid you pass away, not in your home country, you're going to want to most likely want to get your body repatriated home. Should the worst happen. So that, as a nomad or living the liquid life, you want to have good life insurance, but the repatriation limit, you want a bit more buffer, because you're living this fluid kind of, living your best life in whatever country you may be in.
So super interesting. Can I ask you this too? Is there a language component here? And I'll tell you why. I told you my main residence is in Thailand. So my my insurance comes from an insurance company in Thailand. It's a global insurer, but it's in Thailand. And like their entire app is in Thai. Do you know what I mean? Oh. And I feel like, and I'm pretty tech savvy, right? But I'm not Gen Z for sure. But I'm just thinking like, do people think about this too? Because if I am traveling to another country, if I go to Japan, or if I go to France, or if I go to, Lithuania, I don't want that information in that country's language. I want it in my own language. Is this a concern too, particularly for people that are constantly traveling? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, English is probably the most common spoken language across the
Let's do
world.
that.
However, so that would be a start that both the technology and the insurance would be in English. But yes, you definitely have to have a multi-language flexibility and feature there to cater for those people, for everyone.
Okay. I have another question. And again, this stuff's just like popping into my head. If you're living this liquid life, it's also possible that you're not going to be working for the same company the entire time. You may not even be working for the same company for like a year or two in a row, right? Let's say you're a programmer, you're working on a project, that project's over. Even if you live in the same place or you're traveling, you may work for another company. Are we moving to a situation where coverage is no longer associated only with the company for whom you're working, but for yourself as well? And if that's true, does it change the pooling aspect of this, right? Because you're not part of this. Like if you're working for Microsoft, you're part of a company that's 400,000, I don't know how many people, but you know what I mean? So the pooling's different. But if you're not, if you're just like a freelancer, like how does all that stuff change?
So I agree with you in some aspects, but I'm gonna politely disagree with you on some points you raised
Go
as well.
for it.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned sort of that the nomads typically don't work for the same company all the time.
Yeah.
There are exceptions to that, and I'm just going to maybe talk a little bit through
Go
those,
for it.
and I'll use myself as an example actually, so which
Yeah.
which will make it even better. Um, I'm not a digital nomad, but I am a remote worker in my role as COO.
Okay.
So you could be a remote worker if your company has a really nice flexible culture and it really allows, again, super flexibility of benefits, and one of those benefits being remote working, work
Yeah.
wherever you want as long as you've got an internet connection,
Right.
then you could be with the same company for the rest of your life, but living all over the world. Or
Yeah.
you could have the situation you mentioned, which is actually, I'm doing short term work, sort of more freelance, sort of 1 year projects, and I'm moving on. That sort of work. It really depends on the company culture as well, and this again ties down to the benefits. So
Yeah.
you got a flexible company culture that allows people remote working, flexible hours. Most likely, your people are probably going to be happier, will probably stay longer, be more productive, and you're probably going to have quite a successful business.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. I'm wondering, and I don't know if we know the answer to this yet, right? Because we're still in the early innings of this, I think, changing era. But I wonder if it's like how similar it is for big companies, and I'll use Goldman because that's where I used to work, as it is for smaller companies, whether it's a startup or just like a smaller company that is way more flexible. Like no one on the trading desk at Goldman Sachs is going to be like living in Bali. I just don't think that's going to happen. But are there other ways that these big companies, in your experience working with them or talking to them, that they're also getting more flexible, if that makes sense?
Yes, definitely. I see some of our clients, and again, I won't name them out, but one of them is in the top five insurance brokers in the world.
Oh, wow.
They
Okay.
have they have started. They do offer some flexible hours, remote work, hybrid work. So come in 2, 3 days a week. The other two from home, wherever you want. All good as long as the job's getting done, the work's getting done. So this is possible. Where it becomes a little bit difficult, and this is where I'm bringing in some experience from a digital nomad lady I spoke to recently, and she's doing research on this. It's really interesting stuff that she's working on, and I spoke with her to help me prepare my presentation for this conference. But she basically said that where it gets a bit tricky, and I didn't even think of this. Of course, I'm always thinking insurance and tech and all these things. She goes, the visas. There's only some countries that have specific visas for a specific
Yeah.
amount of time. There's sometimes tax implications that you might have to send tax back to your home country, etc. And that makes it sometimes a bit difficult for the larger multinationals to go full out flexible, shall we say. It's easier when you're a 10, 20, maybe 30-person company. When you're a couple of thousand, it can, it's a bit more of a beast to manage. However, start small, You don't have to eat the whole elephant in one bite, right?
Now I'm going to think about that eating an elephant all night. Oh, I don't want to think about it at all. But I understand the point. Can I ask you this? Where does Teambase fit into this whole process, right? So like, what are the things that you're doing inside of the insurance and insurtech space to facilitate and to support all these changes that are taking place?
So we're firm believers in advisor-led digital distribution. And that's kind of like, whoa, that's a mouthful. So what even is that? So
Yeah.
distribution is the way that insurance is sold. And again,
Yep.
our typical clients are insurance brokers, agencies, MGAs, and carriers as well that sell direct to corporates or even via banks, such as bank assurance.
Yep.
We help facilitate them to connect. We're the bridge, we're the technology bridge between that group of insurance entities and the end users. So typically corporate clients. We're very much focused on the B2B space.
Got
And
it.
we bring them together to ensure that there's, again, that the admin is dealt with efficiently over on the insurer side. Everybody hates admin. It's a pain in the neck, I'm going to say. I'm not going to use the other word. But basically...
Is there another word? Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
there is. It's a three-letter word. But
NEK. Go ahead.
yeah. So our solutions help with that, basically making operations more efficient, helping the insurance entities and companies save time and money, connect the insurance with the end customer, and help make the customer experience digital, interactive, and actually enjoyable, which may sound a little bit crazy because a lot of people have this negative connotation with insurance, which I think we as an industry need to change, and everyone plays a part in that, actually.
Can we talk about the comms, the communication side of this, if you don't mind a little bit, because I do find this super interesting too. You know, again, when I was sitting on the desk at Goldman, all of my correspondence with my insurance company was either A, through my human resources department, or B, just through email. But now, like, my agent literally contacts me on Line. Do you know what Line is? Line is it's just a comms app. It's just a chat app.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, what Teambase does from a communications perspective, and does that mean you're connecting to Messenger and to WhatsApp and to stuff like that, and using those as tools and helping the MGAs, helping the carriers, and helping the banks through bank assurance use more modern communication mechanisms to be able to talk to not just their existing clients and customers, but new ones as well?
So yes. So however we do it in the mode of we have our own technology platform to allow
Tell
them
me.
to offer that out to their clients. So we have client platforms for the HR to log in, see all the benefits, manage, keep track of everything, have access to KPIs, see how much premium they're paying, sort of do some forecasting, all of that. Basically get access to all the data they need as a HR or risk manager from a corporate level. And
Okay.
then also down to the individual employee level, our solutions are also a touch point for, again, people literally being able to add their own spouse or child to the group medical policy. We've got the communication channel that allows that to flow across to the HR for approval or rejection. If the HR approves it, then it flows on one step further into the insurance broker and carrier to actually fulfill that insurance request. So I would call our technologies connecting everyone from the employee to their HR to the intermediary broker or agency, and then right back to the carrier to fulfill the insurance. We've got that sort of communication channel all enabled and digitized.
And what's the biggest challenge here? Does this require like a mindset change inside some of these bigger companies, right? Because they're giving away is the wrong word, but they're ceding some control to a different platform. And there's kind of like a fundamental secular change taking place in the way some of these big companies deal with a whole bunch of their internal admin functions, right? Whether it's insurance admin or other admin. So you're playing into like a big corporate trend, right? Where they're saying, our job is to make this widget and sell to these people, or to provide this SaaS software to somebody. Our job is not to be administrators of all of these other things. So they're breaking them down into these component pieces. It feels like you're fitting into one of those pieces on the insurance side and saying, we'll take care of all this stuff for you. Just plug it in here. But does that take a mindset change on the side of some of these companies? So they'll just say, okay, it's on you now kind of thing.
Yeah, there is always going to be that little bit of resistance at the beginning. There's that mindset of, how do I say it? So some of the corporates it will be like a duck to water. They will literally be, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. Like I never want to do all that stuff anyway. Now you can do it for me. I'm in, kind of thing.
Great.
Yeah,
or I have access to do a little bit more self-service. So
yeah.
actually, some HRs, they do not want to wait for their broker to have to submit it across to the carrier. Why would you want to, it's just extending the turnaround time. So, and the turnaround time, I'll try to stop using insurance language, but
That's okay. Keep going.
The turnaround time is how long does it take to process the request from when you submit it until it actually gets fulfilled and that the person gets insurance basically. So if the HR submits it via the platform straight off the bat when they need it, and it goes directly to the carrier and the broker's in the loop, that's immediately shortening that cycle so the coverage can get underwritten and basically out the door and the person gets covered as quickly as possible.
Do you find that with these new interactions, you're able to create, design is maybe the better word, new products or maybe even new product bundles? I mean, just getting back to the travel insurance, right? Like the only time I ever had travel insurance was when I went on a business trip. But if your whole life is like a business trip, does that insurance then get bundled into some other product or get embedded into other products per se, so that you're creating a different product suite for people because their life is so liquid, if that makes sense?
So yes, you just touched on a point, and this is again ties back to something I wrote about recently and that I'm quite passionate about. And I see a huge gap in the insurance industry that needs to be fixed.
Tell me.
I really do. There are some MGAs out there that are doing this, right? They're offering health and life, but it's still two separate products. It's still two separate policies. It's still underwritten in two separate silos, and it's still two premiums that somebody has to pay.
Yeah.
If there is a way for it to be bundled together, okay. If it can't be done because of underwriting, I get that. So let the underwriting happen separately. But on the front face of the distribution piece of it and it being marketed, embed it in together and let people pay one premium. Why pay twice, especially if it's the same insurance company that's providing it anyway? It is painful. And I myself as an individual, again, I'll use myself as an example. I've got like six different insurance policies.
For sure.
And actually two of them, my travel and health, are with the same provider in Ireland. Yet still, it's two separate policies. Okay, they've got it combined under one application. Nice one.
Right.
Good job there, guys. So that's nice. Why am I still paying two separate premiums? Can you not like consolidate it, merge it into one so it's easier for me? Like as an individual, again, as a corporate, it's the same thing. There's just insurance companies and even the distributors, we just need to make things easier for people, make insurance easier for people to consume and buy.
Can I give you my theory on this and tell me if I'm wrong? The payment system, right, that the insurance companies have been using for decades was separate. So your health insurance and your life insurance were just like a different payment system. I'm sure they'd love to combine it. It would make their lives like 1,000 times easier. But I remember when we were changing like the trading position system at Goldman Sachs, and it was like one of the scariest things we ever did, because if it was wrong, just like every other part of the business would die, right? So this is why they merged those two policies together. Like no problem, but you have to pay twice because we just don't want to muck with the system in the back end, right? And I think there's a massive opportunity actually for companies like yours to fix that payment part as well, particularly if you see this as a gigantic opportunity. But am I wrong there?
Payments isn't something we do now, but in
Yeah,
terms
I know,
of
but
the
yeah, yeah,
in terms of the distribution and being that channel, again, one of the solutions we've got, and I'm just going to use it as an example, is an employee benefits marketplace
yep,
where people can come in. You literally shop for, I call it the Amazon of employee benefits. That's what we're going for here. You
I like
come
it.
in, you shop, you add your benefits to a shopping cart, and off you go. You know, it literally should be that easy. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be this painful, long-winded, complicated 75 different payments and policies situation.
Yeah. I mean, I try to make it restaurant analogies, right? Because I think they're just easy for me to understand. Like imagine going into a restaurant and paying like separately for your steak, your potatoes, and your soda. Like it would just,
Yeah, yeah,
you'd
yeah,
lose
yeah.
your mind. They'd be like, that's $7.45 for the potato. You're like, can I just pay for it all together? No, we have a potato payment system. It's just for potatoes. Like that's all you get. It would be weird, right?
Don't you dare ask for gravy because I'm definitely going to make you pay for that too. And I might even
Right.
make you pay for it in a different payment method. I'm not going to take
Right.
card. I want cash for the potatoes and I want direct debit for the steak. So
Oh my God.
deal with
Yeah.
that, Michael, please. Just deal with
Yeah.
it.
Nobody would do that. What is your, and there's a follow up to this, but I'm curious, like for a company like Teambase, right? Like what is your biggest distribution or sales channel? Is it just like knocking on doors? Or are there other ways to get into some of these big companies, and whether it's the MGAs, like all these companies that you want to deal with on a B2B or even on a B2B2C basis, what's your best sales channel?
I would say attending conferences and meeting people in person is a huge one. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, and I'm talking about the
No,
digital life and everything,
no.
and everything being digital and technology. But I really do believe in the power of meeting people in person as well. I mean, it's great to, and I know that that's not always possible. And you can have an online call and that, but when you meet people in person at the conferences, and when you're at the conferences as well, everybody's sort of on this high anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
Everyone's
yeah.
like super pumped, positive. They're out of work for a few days. They're kind of excited to connect with people in the industry and catch up, and everyone's in this like sort of little conference bubble. I would say that that's a really good place to meet people and just to naturally chat about this is what we do. What are your problems? How can we help you? And again, it's a little bit more natural and maybe less forced than when you're sort of online and doing demos and that. When it's a natural face to face chat, it's a little bit easier.
I like it. There's one company that I'm thinking about. It's called Deal, Deel. And this was where I first started. And I had the CEO and one of the founders, one of the co-founders on the show a couple of years ago now, I think. And I think he was the one who kind of made me understand this like secular change in the way big corporates are handling some of their back end stuff. Right? Deal is a company that like basically disintermediates your human resources and I think your salary stuff. Again, big companies, they have their own, salary departments or whatever and human resources departments. But now, since they're so multinational, like what the way you do this in Vietnam is different than the way you do it in Indonesia, and the way you do it in Australia is different than the way you do it in New Zealand. And I don't have to go on and on. But one of the things that they found was they can set up a company in every country in the world and figure out what all the regulations are around there. But I was thinking that they may be a great distribution channel for the stuff that you do because they're already dealing with some of these big companies that have the visa issues that you talked about, which are not your problem, but also the nomad and the traveling and the insurance stuff could fit right into everything that you do. It was just a thought that I was having. I'm not telling you what to do, but it just made me
Yeah,
think about it
sounds
because they're doing
interesting.
something similar to what you're doing, just in a different vertical. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and one thing that you touched on that I kind of want to go a little bit deeper on, if I
Please.
may, you talked about the different regulations in the different countries.
Yeah.
That is where I would say we separate ourselves a little bit.
Go
So
for it. Tell me.
on the health insurance side, health insurance is very country specific.
Yeah.
Health insurance in Ireland is not the same as health insurance in the UK. I'll give you an even better example. In the UAE, which is
Yeah.
multiple Emirates, Dubai have a regulatory body called DHA, Dubai Health Authority. Abu Dhabi, it's HAD, Health Authority of Abu Dhabi. 45
Right.
minutes up the road. Neighbor
Yep.
Emirates, same country, but neighboring Emirates, almost like 50 states in the US. We
It's
all
in the
know
United
that
States, I was going to say.
50
Yeah, I
states.
mean, Tennessee is not Texas, right? So yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
There are nuances and different eligibility requirements for when somebody is eligible to get health insurance. It is
Yeah,
not one size fits all, just
no.
paint everyone with the nice same color. If it was, it would be super easy and everyone would be working in health insurance. But a lot of insurtechs and a lot of people stay away from it is because of these regulatory requirements. And your solution or your system has to be compliant. So we've sort of figured out a little bit of a trick, which is, it's not really a trick, but we've built the solution with the back-end architecture, and I won't get too technical here, in a way that we can configure and easily customize quickly for time to market for our clients, different health insurance regulatory requirements internationally,
I like
which
it.
is why we've got clients in Africa, Middle East, Asia, and now we're looking to expand into Europe and North America in our next phase.
So the regulatory thing is something that's really close to my heart. Again, when I was sitting on a portfolio trading desk at Goldman, we traded in, I mean, I did this one trade, it was in 57 separate markets. And if you didn't understand like the market microstructures and the regulations in each one of those markets, like the whole thing could have just gotten upended. And it's the same thing in the insurance market, right? In the US, you're right. You may as well be dealing with 50 different countries because each one of those
100%.
states are are regulated differently. And the UAE is the same, right? And every big company doesn't want to have to know the answer to all those questions. They're going to rely on you to kind of figure that stuff out for them. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we do. So we partner with them. We're like,
Yep.
okay, our solution is out of the box. However, we know, and we're not going to pretend, especially when we're entering a new market. We're very open. We're like, this is what our solution does. Tell us your regulatory requirements. We'll configure it for you. That is critical. It also ties into the adoption of the users and the whole user experience. And that's where a lot of digital transformation projects fail. They can't get the people excited to use the platform. Why? Because if it's not configured for the local market, then how are you going to get people to want to use an uncompliant system that doesn't look familiar and what they're used to in their country? And that is critical. I think some people miss the point in that they come with this absolutely amazing AI, cutting edge, millions of billions of dollars pumped into it, and it can do this and that, and it can give you a back massage, it can do everything, right?
Right.
But then they're trying to squeeze that literally round hole square peg. They're trying to make it fit into different countries, and they're not willing to do that little step further, which is you have to do the localization to make it fit the local regulatory requirements, and that's critical in health insurance, especially.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you're not doing that, you're just not winning. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to mention that I didn't cover? Otherwise, I'm just going to thank you.
Um, no, I think we're good. I think did I come across that we love insurance, employee benefits, health and life, and did that come across at least?
Oh my God. You know, I remember when we did and I say this to everybody during the prep call, right? Like to be good at something, anybody can be good at anything, right? Particularly if they're hardworking, but to be great at something, you have to care about it. I think the people who listen to this episode will understand that you care. Like that's
Oh,
one
okay.
thing for sure.
We
Yeah.
really care. I'm so into it. I mean, yeah, I probably feel like I love my job. Like, I really
Yeah.
like it. It sounds weird to say that. Some people are like,
Nope.
oh, you're full of shit. But no, like, no, I really like it. It's probably why I'm gonna keep doing this until I'm very old.
Exactly. It's probably why you're so great at it. Helen Burke, the founder and the COO of Teambase. I cannot thank you enough for doing this. You were, as expected, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been great, and it's such an honor to be on your podcast. Appreciate it.